Okay, so I went ahead and I traced my pattern onto a tracing paper, and using your gray graphite, I transferred it onto my surface, and I went ahead and did a base coat, and I like to use blue shop paper towel, and my instructions and for this pattern is on my website if anyone is interested. We're going to start with the roof. I base coated it with raw sienna, and I'm going to use my chisel blender, and this is for dry brushing, and you always use this dry. I'm going to put this upside down. I'm going to mix raw sienna. I'm going to put it on my paper towel, and I'm going to wipe as much as I can. I'm going to pick up sand gray, and I'm going to blend these two colors together to make like a lighter brown. But I want this to almost be like completely dry. I'm going to start from the bottom of the roof. I'm going to drag my brush, and I'm leaving an edge of raw sienna at the bottom. I'm going to pick up a little bit of sand gray and drag it. Always lay your brush down flat. Add a little bit more. Okay, so once my highlight is done, we're going to float the corners with Asphaltum. And I'm going to use my number 10 shader brush. I'm going to wet this with the extender medium instead of water. So I have my little container here. I usually put a little bit of extender in there. Wet my brush. Okay, I'm going to pick up Asphaltum, blend on my palette. And I'm just going to go along the edges here. And you want to apply like a choppy, messy float. It doesn't have to be a straight line. This corner here. A little bit more. I'm going to do this corner right over here. You can always go back once it's dry to apply a second coat if needed. And one thing about using extender medium, you can always wipe with a clean brush any paint that went over to the other surface. Right underneath the roof right here, I'm going to apply a little float right here of Asphaltum. Okay. So once it's dry, we'll go back and apply a second coat of a float. In my birdhouse here, I've painted it with gray sky. And we are going to use raw sienna, slate gray, and neutral gray to add dry brush. So if you look at my little birdhouse here, I have different areas of raw sienna and your grays, and then we can always go back into it if we need to add more. So I'm using the number 10 chisel blender, and again you're going to use this dry, and so I need my raw sienna, I need my slate gray and neutral gray. So I'm going to start with raw sienna. I'm going to dry brush, just rub until there's no more on it. Okay, so I'm going to start a little bit from here Now just apply light pressure. You don't need like a heavy color on here. More along the bottom. Pick up a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to leave my brush dirty, and I'm going to pick up some slate gray. Again, rub as much as you can on paper towel. Pick up a little bit more. Okay, now I'm going to pick up some neutral gray. Keeping my brush dirty. So along the edge here. Now I'm not trying to cover up my base coat. I just want like wood grains, like a dirty birdhouse. Okay, now I'm gonna rinse this off, and we're going to add a little bit of highlight. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and apply some highlights, and I'm going to use Oyster Beige. And I'm going to use a clean chisel blender. So I'm just trying to wipe as much water as I can. Okay, so I'm going to use this dry Oyster Beige. I'm going to wipe as much as I can off my paper towel. And I'm going to highlight along the edges over here, like where there's going to be the front and the side. And pick up a little bit more. I'm going to add some highlights in the middle, center here. It's always best to go really light on your dry brushing, and if you have to, you go back and apply a couple more strokes. Okay, so that's it for dry brushing. If we have to, we'll just go back in. Okay, so now we're going to go back, and I'm going to just dab some of this water off. I'm going to go back and apply some asphaltum on my roof using my shader. You kind of, if you want, you kind of pull, and it'll leave little lines. It'll look like wood grains. So if you just pull. Okay, and the top layer right here on the roof, I added a little bit of a float right here with asphaltum also. So with the tip, I just dragged my brush just to add a little bit of color. I'll just go back in with my little mop brush and I'll just soften it. Okay, so we're done with the roof. And we're going to add some float to the birdhouse. So my floating along the edges of along the edge and the top and bottom is done with slate gray. So again, I'm just going to pick up a little bit of extender on my brush. And I'm going to use slate gray. I'm going to start from the top, just drag it right underneath the roof. If I have to, you see harsh lines, just again, take your mop brush and just soften it by pouncing. Okay, I'm going to pick up a little bit more extender. Right at the bottom here. And stop right at the corner. And right by this little tree right here, there's a little bit of a float there also. Okay, so now we're going to do the sides. Here we have it's a separation for the front and the side of the wall. So we're going to go along just these two edges here, and this here will be highlighted. Now it doesn't have to be perfect, because you're going to add some creases along the edge. Okay, I'm going to go along this side here. Now if you find your brush is just dragging and it's not floating properly, just pick up a little bit more extender. And also I'm going to do it right here. Okay, we're going to let it dry and we're going to add some darker floats on here. So let's go ahead and highlight this side here with oyster beige. More extender. Okay, I'm just going to go it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, I'll double water. Okay, I'm gonna darken my floats with neutral gray along the top and the bottom. And again, doesn't have to be perfect, just choppy little floats. Really make sure you blend your float onto the palette paper. I'm gonna just soften this up a little bit. I'm going to go over my highlight. Okay, I'm going to go to the bottom area. And this here, just tone it down right here. Again, along the tree. Okay, so we're going to come back to this because it's really wet in order for me to add darken my floats some more with charcoal gray. So we're going to work on the little chickadee while that dries. Charcoal gray over here. So my chickadee is base coated with white and lamp black. And I'm going to use my script liner, and you're going to kind of make your little hairs, and we're going to float along the belly. So, pardon me, I got to look at my notes. So we're going to float with raw sienna and a little bit of asphaltum to the both sides of the belly. I'm going to pick up some extender. So very lightly we're going to add raw sienna. And it's just like at the bottom part right here along the tummy. Okay, I'm going to take my mop brush and just lightly tap. And I'm going to go to this side here along the wing. And I'm gonna just tap it. Okay. Now we're gonna pick up some asphaltum. Doesn't need a whole lot, just a little bit. Okay. Along the bottom here to the tummy. Now I'm going to let that dry, and then I'll add some charcoal gray to the final touch. Okay, so I've added the beak here. And inside the little beak, there's like a little cherry. So what I did was I took my little stylus and with the little bigger ball, I dabbed it with raw sienna right in the tip. Okay, so for the eye, I outlined it with cool white, and I'm gonna dip my brush in extender medium, and I'm gonna make this white just a little bit inky. I want it thick. Because you want fine lines. So right over here, I'm gonna add like a line and a dot. Now if you find your white was just a little too thick, I'm going to pick up a little bit of black, and you just go over it just a little bit to thin out the white line. Okay, so we're going to add little brush strokes, and we're going to start with like black. So again, I'm just going to pick up some extender medium, and I'm going to make my black just a little inky here. And I like to, I don't know if you can see, when I blend it, and I like to drag my liner just so you get the tip. That way you don't have a big blob at the end of your liner. So right by the beak, there's a little bit of hair right here. So I just, and then you can add a little bit on the top, just like little hair strokes. I'll pick up a little bit more black. You'll know when your liner drags that you're out of paint. Here there's a little bit of a wing, so like the left little wing, so we're gonna put, it's very faint here, a little bit of black. We're gonna add some little dots, finish the, just dab, doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, let's go into the white. And pick up some extender. And then I'm going to start right here. I'm going to add some little hairs right here on the wing. A little bit on the tummy. Okay, I think I'm going to add a little bit more black on his cheek. I don't think I added it a lot. It's almost going to touch the wing here. Okay, I'm going to add like it's a little highlight on my beak. Not on the top. You're going to add it at the bottom of the beak right here. So I'm just going to lightly add white. Okay, I'm going to go back and add some charcoal gray onto the bottom corners. Okay, my shader. I got too much. Now I just want it at the bottom area. I don't want it like along the side. And I'm gonna pick up my mark brush. Oops. The feet are done at the end of when we add the tree. We're going to go back and add its feet at the end. So now I want to float some highlight on his wing. So that's done with cool white. I'm just going to add a little bit more cool white. My paint dries faster on palette paper than it does in your Stay Wet palette. Okay. Just very lightly, I'm going to pick up some white here. Okay, so I have a little bit here underneath the wing. What I'm trying to create is like a little line here. So right here, I kind of do like a C stroke and just lift up. And over here, kind of just do a C stroke. And I think I'm happy with that. Okay, I want to go back and add some white hairlines on the wing here. I'm going to go back to my inky puddle. Okay, right here, I'm going to just add a little bit more hairlines right here. Okay, well, we're done with the little bird for now. So we're going to go back to the birdhouse. I think it looks okay. We're going to add the darker floats under here with charcoal gray. Or, I'm sorry, not charcoal. Yes, charcoal gray. We're going to go back underneath with charcoal gray. Okay. I don't think my color mixed very good. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Okay, so right underneath the roof, we're going to darken that up, and I really want a wider float. So if I have to, I'll pick up my mop brush and just soften it up a little bit. Okay, I'm going to do the other side. Okay, I'm going to soften that up. Okay, I'm going to go to the bottom area and do the same. So I'm doing the bottom choppy, and I'm going to finish right there at the front of the birdhouse. And also want to do it by the tree right here. Okay. So I'm going to let it dry again. I'll go back in and do a charcoal gray for the top area. So now what I want to do is add some, I'm going to add the birdhouse hole and the little stand. And what I did was, I have a stencil here with different sizes of circles. And we have a Dynasty Stencil Pro, and I have a 3/8 of a size. And with the color that I used for the hole was neutral gray, and so pretty sure this was the one. So I'm going to try and center it, and I'm going to use a dry paper towel because this one's kind of wet. So I'm going to pick up some neutral gray, and I'm going to dry it on my paper towel till it's almost dry. And I'll hold this in place, and just in circles, just dry brush. We'll go back and add more color to it on a second coat, but I think I need a little bit more. So I'll just come back. We'll let that dry and come back and add a second hole. And I think I used the wrong size. I'm going to just wipe this off. It's a little bit too big. So let me just wipe this off. I wet my paper towel. I should have known it was too big. There's actually the smaller one right here, and then I used the edge here for the little stand. So let's try that again. Okay, I'm going to pick up a little bit more neutral gray. Just dab and circle. Make sure it's dry. Okay, we're going to come back and do, it's a little wet right now. Okay, the bottom here, stand. Just dry brush. Okay, so we'll come back and add another dry brush. So I'll leave my brush dirty for now. So I want to add another coat of charcoal gray. Should be okay. I got my paper towel somewhere. I'll just use this white one. Okay, I'm going to pick up charcoal gray. Okay, I'm just going to soften it with my mop brush. Okay, I'm happy with it now. So we are going to add some creases using a liner brush, and you're going to use the same color as you did for dry brushing. So we're going to start off with some raw sienna. I'm going to grab my liner. Grab my liner brush, and I'm going to dip in some extender here. And the paint dries really fast down here. Okay. So to add pressure, to make the lines thicker, just push down on your liner brush. So this will add different sizes. And then lift up. You can add small ones, long ones. You can add some in pairs. It doesn't have to be single brown lines. And underneath here, it's right beside it. I'll add a second one. And I don't have a whole lot of the brown ones, the brown lines. I usually had more of the gray color tone. Okay, I'm going to add some grays. So I'll start with, I believe I had slate gray and neutral gray. I'm just going to pick up some fresh slate gray. Okay, I also outlined the birdhouse, like the front, the back, and the side right here, and then I darkened it with the neutral gray. So I'm just gonna go here, and it doesn't have to be a perfect line. I'm adding pressure. I'm gonna go to over here, because I'm gonna add a second line over the edge right here with a darker color. Okay, in the back right here. Okay, so right here. And right along the holes in the little stand, we're going to add some colors here too. And we're going to add float underneath as well. And here you can add like a little wood crack. Okay, I think I'm okay with this. I'll add a little bit at the bottom right here. Okay, let's add some neutral gray. Just trying to see here. Oh, I'm gonna add some extender. You can add it beside too if you want, where you just did the first strokes. It's a little thick. Just gonna grab a little brush and just work that down a little bit. Oh, my line was thick. Okay, I'm gonna add some charcoal gray lines. Water this down. Okay, for the charcoal gray, I went over a little bit of the color here. Again, just add pressure. Lightly, and then add, just push down on your brush. It doesn't have to be a perfect line. Again, right here. I want to add some underneath the roof. I don't have to add a whole lot. And then I want to add some at the bottom over here. Always make sure that your hand is not touching the wet paint. I'm going to just add a little bit over here, some darker color. Okay. So we're going to go back and dry brush our little holes, but first I'm going to dry my creases. So I'll be right back. Okay, so it's dry, and we're ready to give a second little dry brush on our little holes here. Okay, so I'm going to put a fresh little puddle of neutral gray here. And we're going to go inside. Don't add a lot of pressure, just softly dab. Okay, I'm gonna do my little stand. Okay, so we're gonna let that dry. We're gonna come back and do a highlight on the inside. So underneath here, we're gonna float some, charcoal gray underneath it. And we're going to highlight with gray sky. Okay, so charcoal gray. Okay, so you can add like a little choppy float down underneath here. Go all the way to the corner. Just soften it up. Okay, so what I also did was I took my liner and just put I think it was Gray Sky, the natural base coat that I did for the birdhouse. I'm gonna add like a little lined at the bottom just so I don't lose my circle. Right over here. I'm gonna go over here and just reapply. Alrighty. dry. So inside the hole I did, it's like a wood edge right here. So I'm going to reapply with the Gray Sky. And you can use your shader brush. Oops. Okay, so you're going to kind of do a half moon. So I'm going to start from the bottom here, and you're just going to lightly do a half moon all the way to the top. Okay, I'm going to leave it like that. I'm going to let it dry. And for the little one over here, there's one on the left side. So I'm going to pick up some extender. It's again like a little moon, and from the top to the bottom. I left a little gray edge along it. Okay, now beside this float, I'm gonna do a float of charcoal gray. And you're just gonna float right next to it. Okay, I'm gonna take my mop brush, just soften it up a little bit. Okay, now for our tree, I added already a coat of raw sienna, and we're going to add a second coat. And how I did this, it was with a chisel blender, and it is wet for the base coating. And then I'm going to apply another coat of raw sienna. Get some fresh paint. So how I did it, I load very lightly. It doesn't have to be a whole lot. And I went from the top and I pull along the edges. It doesn't have to be a solid color because we're going to add other color, and we're going to add some dry brushing, some floats, highlights. So on here, I go from the bottom and I just drag to the center. So I just keep loading. It doesn't have to be, like, you don't want it thick. You just want it to say you wet your brush. Okay, so the bottom part, same thing from the top to the center. Turn it around. Okay, so now we're going to get to the thicker branch in the tree. So you're going to add like longer strokes here. And this helps to shape your tree, because the tree is not straight. The tree has little lumps, like it's not a straight edge cut. And you find your brush is getting dry, just pick up some extender, medium, and then it'll help pull the paint. So I'm just going to pick a little bit here up. Okay, so I like to turn my project from the edge that I'm going to pull from. So I'm going to go from here to the center. And I do a little section at a time because I don't want my paint to dry by the time I do the other side. And I don't want to leave like big thick lines as well. Like the brush strokes, you want to have it very thin. So again, I do little sections at a time. I pull. Oops. Put this way. I need a little bit more. Okay, so I like it. Okay, so we're gonna let it dry. We're gonna add some extender medium to it, and we're gonna add other colors to it. So I'm gonna dry this and I'll be right back. Okay, so my tree is dry. I'm gonna add some extender to it. So with my little wash brush, I don't want to puddle, I just want to wet my whole tree surface. And this is going to give us a longer play time for some highlights and some shading. Okay, so we're going to start from the brushes. With your chisel blender, we are going to, and it can be wet, so we're going to pick up cool white, mix it on your paper towel. We're going to pick up some raw sienna, and we're going to blend these two colors together so that we have a lighter color. And you're going to go from the top and you're going to pull to the center. I want it just a little bit lighter. So we're going to pull from the top to center. Now you're not going to see a whole lot of it. You're going to have other colors as well. So all the top part of the brushes in okay, and then you're going to go from the top here, and then from this side we're going to do the left side of the tree. So I'm just going to blend some more brown in here, pick up some white. Okay, so again, I'm trying not to touch the wet surface. Okay, so just do like long strokes. Try not to touch. Okay, we're going to pick up, I'm going to just keep my brush dirty. I'm going to pick up some antique green. And this one here, you're going to do strokes like in the center area, but not the entire tree. I just want a few little areas on the branches from center over here. And pick up a little bit more. And the colors are going to mix together. Okay, so on the bottom branches and the right side, we're going to pull with Asphaltum. And I'm just going to grab some fresh color. I'm just going to try and take some of this green off. Okay, so pulling. Okay, so I'm going to pull from the bottom up. So I'm kind of tapping and then just pulling to the center. Okay, a little bit more. My palette's getting full. So I'm pulling. Okay, and then from the right side of the tree, and I'm also going to do the creases where the tree joins. I want this to be dark. So just pull. Bottom right here. I'm going to pull this till I get to the edge of the branch. Alrighty. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to dry this again, and we're going to add some highlights and some floating. Be right back. Okay, it's dry, but I added some extender medium to the branches only because it's small. We're going to float on the top branches and the left side of the tree with raw sienna. So I need some more extender medium. Okay, so just dab a little bit. I'm going to pick up raw sienna. Okay, so I'm going to start on here, and what I just want to do is add make it, it doesn't have to be, I'm trying to explain this, doesn't have to be fully covered. I just want to try and reform some of the branches that it didn't lose its colors. Okay, over here. Just drag it. Keep picking up some color. Okay, now I'm going to do the top branch over here. Okay, I think I got a little bit too much here. I'm going to do this branch right here. And we're going to go down to the left side of the tree. going to stop right there because that's going to be underneath the tree, so you kind of have to stop there. And when that dries, we're going to go back with some burnt sienna and just go over that. So while this dries, we're going to go underneath the branch and the right side of the tree with asphaltum. I'm just going to clean my brush. Pick up some extender. Okay, so let's pick up some asphaltum. Okay, so I'm going to start this little branch right here. I'm going to kind of, because it's so small, you're kind of just going to drag it. And what's nice about this, if you go over the lines, you can take a clean brush and just wipe some off. Right here, went a little over, and it cleans up so easily. Okay, so I'm gonna pick up a little bit more here. Okay, so I'm gonna start from the bottom of the tree and work its way to the other branch here. If it's find it's dragging, pick up a little bit more extender. When you get to this little part here, just drag it. Okay, and I'm just going to take my mop brush here, just so I don't get those harsh lines. Just going to dry it up a little bit. Okay, take my clean brush. Just pick up. Okay, so now I'm going to go along the right side of the tree with asphaltum. And I'm going to start with this little crease right here. This could be choppy. Still a little wet. Okay, I just want to take my mop brush. I think it went all over. Okay, I'm going to pull from this side here. Just take my mop brush. A little bit here. Oops, too much water. Still have too much water. I should have used extender. Okay, I'm going to do around the bottom of this branch right here and along this crease right here. Okay, I'm going to take my mop brush, just soften it up. Okay, so we're going to go back to the top of the branch. We're going to add some burnt sienna. Okay, so just right over here, just drag it. Along the top. Okay, and then we're gonna go on this branch right here. Okay, so we're gonna go back and do the left side of the tree and the top of these branches right here. This extender is so forgiving. Okay, let's do the top of the branch, or we're gonna go back because it's still wet. Okay, so see, I touched some paint and dragged it on my surface. There we go. Okay. Just take your mop brush, soften it up, and pick up some extender. I'm going to stop right there where the crease is. Okay, I'm going to do along this branch right here. Pick up some more. Our tree is coming to life. Just want a little bit more right here. Okay. Now we're going to add charcoal gray, and the charcoal gray is for creases and to make the right side of the tree darker. So again, I'm going to pick up some extender. I'm going to pick up some charcoal gray. Okay, so I have like dark creases here. So what I like to do is a choppy float. So right here, it's going to, whoops, just went over my edge. Kind of just walk it. Okay, I'm going to take my mop brush and just pounce on it. Okay, I'm not so worried about like underneath the branch. I just want like creases in the right side of the tree. So right here, we have a crease where the two branches join. So this here will be just a little darker. And then just take a mop brush. Okay, and then we're going to go along the right side of the tree. Now this one here, I just want to walk it just a little bit more. Okay, mop this up. Okay. Just walk it, choppy floats. On the roof, and then just try this up. I'm going to do it here. Now I'm not going to go all the way underneath the tree. I'm just going to go into this crease right here. So right here, just walk it, and just a little bit on this side. Okay, I'm going to take my mop brush. Okay, now on the right side, we have, well, we have creases, but we also have like indented parts where I want it to be dark. So we're gonna go and do these ones right here. Okay, so we have one over here where there's a lump right here. I'm gonna add one right there. So I'm just gonna walk it. So that's, and again, it does not have to be perfect. Okay, there's a crease right here, so this here will be dark. Okay, I'm going to take my mop brush. And right over here, pick up some extender. Just kind of walk it to the side, and up my edge. I got one right here that I want to add some dark. Oops. And a little bit at the bottom right here. Okay, we're almost done our tree. Okay, so next thing that we have to do is add some details to our tree. For this here, we're going to use chisel blender, and this is done wet, and we're going to use, I believe it is, I forgot, I'm sorry. Gray Sky and Charcoal Gray. Okay, so what I'm going to do is wet this just a little bit. Okay, so now we're gonna start with, you can start with the light color, which is Gray Sky, and I think I need some more. Okay, so just, you don't want a heavy load on here. You just want it lightly, okay? So what I'm gonna do is start from the top, and I'm trying not to touch my tree because it's still wet. So what I'm gonna do is you're just gonna dab in different angles, and this forms your tree. So you're gonna do some left to the right, and on the branch you can also add some. I'm gonna try and stay away from the dark areas a little bit with the gray color. I don't want too much with this one. Oops, I went on an angle. I'm going to try and wipe it just a little bit. Okay, I'm just going to pick up a little bit more. Okay, so when I get to the branch, I'm going to turn my brush, or turn my piece and continue on this angle. I didn't do so much of the branch part because it's so small. So you can just take the corner of it and just dab a few little areas if you wanted to. Over here, you're going to do the branch. Again, you can just dab with the corner. Okay, so I'm going to clean my brush, and I'm going to pick up some charcoal gray. I don't want to pick up a whole lot, just to say you have some at the end. Okay, I'm going to start from the top. Again, just pick different little sections. Make sure you hold your brush straight up. Again, I'm going to turn my little okay. Now, the only thing that's left to do is the little bird's feet. So all that is done with is your script liner. And I'll need some fresh black. Okay. And it's still a little wet. I'm going to just take my paper towel and just damp some of this extender off. Otherwise it's going to plop. Okay. So what it is black, and you're kind of doing like on this one here, it's kind of like a comma in 3, and the nails are really long, and we're gonna add some highlights to this. Okay, so this one has a little leg, and again 3 nails. Okay, I'm gonna clean this off. I'm gonna put some extender and really ink some of this white here. Okay, so I'm gonna add highlights to its little feet. Right over it, very lightly. You don't want to lose your black. Okay, and that completes our little project. There we go. I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for joining me.